539 AD, 4433 AM. The Persians capture the Syrian city of Antioch, now a predominantly Christian city. Antioch is called the Jewel of the East, one of the four major metropolitan cities of the old Roman Empire. 540 AD, 4434 AM. The Anglo-Saxon Chronicle of Britain records that a total eclipse of the sun occurred again. Because computer projections demonstrate that the moon did not eclipse the sun at this time over Britain, these annals have met with scorn, but we know that a locally transiting object could have cast the earth in shadow, an object other than the moon. Also in this year began what has come to be called Justinian's plague, probably bubonic. The Eastern Roman Empire, controlled by Constantinople, suffered a plague that came from the east and would last 52 years to 592 AD. 540 AD is half of 1080 AD. 1. Voyages of the Pyramid Builders. 542 AD, 4436 AM. The Justinian plague at its height. Procopius wrote that the plague had fallen upon the whole world. The Far East, India, was laid waste by the disease. Palestine, Syria, and Asia Minor depopulated, and Procopius wrote that the plague killed thousands inside the city of Constantinople. This plague is said to have wiped out half the population of Europe. This was the year 1948, since Israel became a nation in 1407 BC. 1948 Annus Mundi being 1947 BC, when Abraham was born, and 1948 AD is the year that Israel in the 20th century would become a nation again. This was also 1260 years since the 10 tribes were deported by the Assyrians in 721 BC. This was the 66th year since the fall of Rome, or 792 months. In this year the British historian Gildas asserts Christianity was introduced into Britain in the last year of Tiberius Caesar, or in 38 AD. This is also the date that King Arthur and his knights in the Battle of Camblan died, fighting the enemy Mordred, who was also defeated. 1. Procopius, Secret History. 2. The Vikings, A Short History of the World. 3. St. Paul in Britain. 4. The Secret Teachings of All Ages. 547 AD, 4441 AM. The Gothic king Totila took the city of Rome back, most of Italy and Sicily. This was 11 years after Belisarius drove off the Goths and gave Emperor Justinian the keys to the city of Rome. 550 AD, 4444 AM. Procopius finished his The Secret History, about Emperor Justinian and his sinister wife, Theodora, a book written in private because of the contents, which would have guaranteed that he die a very unpleasant death. He and other writers of the time tell of the huge violent whale named Porphyrion that had ruined many ships during a 50-year period. 1. Procopius, The Secret History. 552 AD, 4446 AM. The White Huns invaded northern India in this year in the 476th year of the Indian Saka calendar. The Huns were an Israelite-descended people who had invaded Europe in 372 AD, exactly 180 years earlier. This was 1998 years, 666 times 3, after the Israelites fled Egypt in the Exodus in 1447 BC, and this Hun invasion was 1296 years, 432 times 3, after the 10 tribes were deported in 745 BC by the Assyrians. Further, this year was 864 years, 432 plus 432, of the Greek-Syrian Seleucid calendar that began in 313 BC. This was also 288, 144 plus 144, of the Coptic calendar that started in 264 AD. This was the year 552 AD, 552 being a phoenix cycle. Also in this year, the Goth king Totila, who took Rome in 547 AD, was killed by Nares. 1. Procopius, Secret History. 554 AD, 44:48 AM. Emperor Justinian of Constantinople in the east invaded Italy and took Rome from the Goths, ending 28 years of anarchy and military takeovers. He founded the Imperial restoration of the Roman Empire, the first of several historic attempts to rebuild the historic Roman Empire. This was precisely 500 years before the 1054 AD rift between the Eastern Orthodox and Western Roman churches. This was the 2000th year since the exodus of Israel from Egypt in 1447 BC, one March of the Titans. 559 AD, 4453 AD, AM. General Belisarius of Constantinople had been forced into retirement by conspiracy and the fear and mistrust of Emperor Justinian. But the Huns surrounded the walls of Constantinople, and Justinian was forced to recall Belisarius to defend the city. The Huns are repelled. 1 Procopius, The Secret History. 565 AD, 4459 AM. Historians attest that all three famous figures died in this year: Emperor Justinian, Belisarius, and the chronicler Procopius, author of The Secret History. Historians also estimate that as many as 100 million people lost their lives to the natural catastrophes during Justinian and Theodora's 40-year reign, as well as due to their violent policies, their criminal acts, wars, and famine. In this year was the first official sighting of the Loch Ness Monster by a man that would later become St. Columba, who was said to have subdued the creature, which impressed a local Pictish king. 1 Procopius, The Secret History. 2 Mystery at Acambaro.